ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. We have a special show for you tonight because former Minister of Finance and President Mohammed's advisor on the economy, Seth Terkper, launched a book on what topic? I'm sure you could guess. Taxation. We're there to support him to do that launch. So tonight we've invited him to talk about the book he's launched and also to share his views on the first 6 months of the Mahama government as far as the economy is concerned and what we should expect for the next 3.5 years. It's going to be interesting. Stay with us.
Do you want a healthy smile?
Persistent bad breath could indicate gum disease. I'm Tanya from Bethel Dental Clinic, Ghana. Did you know that gum disease is a common cause of bad breath or halitosis? But there's hope. As dental hygienists, one of the main things we do when you come for your periodic visits is to examine your gum health by completing a periodontal assessment. Gingivitis, the early stage of gum disease, is common and characterized by swollen, bleeding gums and halitosis. The good news is that gingivitis can be reversed back to healthy gum tissue. Regardless of which stage is present, a professional cleaning or deeper cleanings are needed as a first step to treating halitosis or bad breath. So, schedule your appointment with your hygienist now to learn more about maintaining healthy gums and getting rid of bad breath.
Healthy smile.
Where to get polytank?
Oh, and you're rock fine.
Go straight.
Oh, I want for left, right.
And you left, right. Ghana na ye wono. So when you do more, and ye data. Who knows? Abe, na ye. Me pe polytank ato. And you think I'm in your bed to be able to never you. Oh, full to be here. Enjoy your kura.
Akuya bulambo customer. Emuha.
Like they took my eyes. Came to me and go to the distributor and you give the original polytank. You hear the sound?
Polytank, Papananka Sankasa.
Introducing Betway's Bet Influencer, a groundbreaking feature where you can make money by just sharing codes. He just needs to share his codes and make money. The more his codes are used, the more money he makes. Oh yes, so what are you waiting for? Anyone can be a bet influencer. Share your codes and make money. Bet Influencer, another world first from Betway.
This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Betway, get way more.
Remember who we are seeing now? At risk of prostate enlargement. We a member or her 20 ebitiminya prostate cancer. 5 bitimi afamu nadia obefamu. Actually, this is not my fault.
And to wada, entina midi meniche Executive Prostate Center.
Executive Prostate Center is a unique medical center where we harmonize in-depth traditional medicine with cutting-edge science and technology to cure, to treat, and to prevent diseases like prostate enlargement, prostate cancer.
Executive Prostate Center. Facilities no any professional medical care.
Sisi a bibia clear system ni. Ye nro ne so de natural. Into we koso afa ma ye.
Executive Prostate Center. My cured.
Imagine waking up to serenity every day, surrounded by nature's beauty and luxury at your fingertips in a gated estate you can be proud to call your home. Welcome to Western Villas, located at Ai Mensa, where our stunning homes redefine elegance. At Western Villas, each home is a masterpiece, designed with precision and love. From swimming pool, gym, playground, beautiful landscaped gardens and private balconies, making every day feel like a retreat. We also have executive plots for sale at McCarthy Hill, strategically located and offer unparalleled views, easy access to amenities, and endless possibilities for executive living. With just 5% deposit, you can reserve your space. Contact us today to learn more about our luxury homes at Ai Mensa or executive plots at McCarthy Hill. Call us now on 0536 502295 or visit www.westernvillas.com for more information.
So welcome back. Tonight we're talking to the President's Advisor on the Economy, Seth Terkper, who launched a book. This is his second book, actually, which is a book on taxation. Before we talk to him, here are highlights of what happened at the book launch.
At the launch of his new book, Value Added Tax in Africa, The Ghana Experience, Seth Terkper underscored the need to end the era of fragmented tax policies.
As we review not just the VAT, but the entire tax system, including ITAS from federal this year, I think what we need to rethink as a nation is to remove as many distortions that really mimic the four core taxes, so that we allow GRA to implement them effectively and efficiently, and we allow businessmen to be able, to also comply, because it's business that collects most of the taxes.
For his part, Chief of Staff Julius Deborah urged the Ghana Revenue Authority to intensify its tax education efforts and adopt a more engaging approach to boost compliance.
Coming from the private sector, collection of taxes are good. We need it. Without it, we can't build a nation. But sometimes I find a little bit of a challenge with the mode of which some of your operatives handle the private sector people. Anytime there's a forum and you bring business people together, they seem to have an issue. I see LC Power here from GRA. I'm using this occasion to encourage you to possibly let your PR department increase the level of education. Because if people are made aware as to why they have to pay their taxes, I'm sure they will gladly them to pay.
Delivering a speech on behalf of the Vice President, Chief of Staff at the Office of the Vice President, Alex Segbefia, commended Seth Terkper for his significant contribution to Ghana's tax reform agenda.
It's been said, he doesn't brag, doesn't boast. And I've often heard people say, oh, he's not a politician. I find it sad. The fact that somebody chooses not to play politics in a certain way does not mean he's not a politician. He just made a choice. Most of the time, most people are not brave enough to make that choice. Seth Terkper made his choice, and he prefers principles to what we call everyday politics. I am glad with what the Chief of Staff said. He has been vilified by our own. Today, many people have to stand back and say, well, actually, you got it right.
Meanwhile, the first copy of the book was purchased by the Chief of Staff on behalf of the President for 30,000 Ghana cedis.
According to Seth Terkper, any tax imposed in Ghana, apart from income tax, value-added tax, excise tax, and import tax, is a mere duplication of existing framework. Hence the need for the government to rather look at strengthening the existing framework to make it wholesome. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I am Samuel Akom.
Welcome back. So tonight we're speaking to Seth Terkper. He's the President's Advisor on the Economy. Earlier today, he launched his second book. It's Value Added Tax in Africa, the Ghanaian Experience. When I asked viewers to guess what book he would launch, I'm sure 99% of them will say it will be tax. Yeah. Is tax your favorite subject of all the things you do?
Yes, indeed. I've taken tax, as a subject in every course I have taken from undergraduate level. I read a Bachelor of Commerce where you do tax incrementally, right from year 1 through year 4, because KVAS, education was the 4th year. And the structure of the course aligns with the Institute of Chartered Accountants course. So most people who do VSc or BCom end up doing the professional.
Yeah.
So once I started doing that, that was also tax. Almost every section, all sections, have something to do with direct tax or indirect tax. Because we'll talk about the difference, later. And then I went to the to do my master's, Kennedy School.
And there too, you did
Harvard
tax?
to be specific. Yes, I was doing master's in public administration. But then there was a program under the law school, you know, the School of Government and Law School, and I opted, you know, so we were registered for both. So once you met your basic requirements for MPA in the Kennedy School, where you do public administration, some economics and the rest, you can cross-register to the law school. And so I did more tax.
So that
was where I did the VAT.
Tax law?
The tax law, complete.
At Harvard Kennedy School.
Yeah.
And then when you worked with IMF, you were working on tax?
Yes, I was in Fiscal Affairs Department.
Oh my God.
And I work on VAT. To be frank, by then, Ghana had introduced the VAT through a very difficult, you know, which we will talk about.
Which is partly in the book as well.
Yes, so by the time, everybody knows it for one word, Kumi Prekum. So by the time I got to the IMF, yes, that was the main thing.
You are the taxman lucky to be spoke about.
Yes, but then because I was the Fiscal Affairs Department, the Fiscal Affairs is fiscal. And I had done most of public administration because I started my career in the Ministry of Finance, monetary issues and others. So quite fascinating. So I added, you know, other public financial management aspects, which ties in with my accounting, you know, qualifications. So that's how come I'm able to.
So you actually are interested in the subject. You like tax. As an area of inquiry, it's something that excites you. I mean, I can't understand because
when it excites me, tax doesn't excite a lot.
When I did the, I mean, it's a difficult area, both from an accounting perspective, from a law perspective.
Yeah,
it's very, very difficult to understand the various. It's a complicated area. Yet you seem to enjoy it.
Well, I don't dispute that because I said, you know, right from, you know, and I went to a business school, so you did a bit of, you know, a bit of tax. So as I said, right from year one of KVAS, there's hardly any year which you didn't do any tax. Then CA Ghana, part 1, part 2, part 3.
Tax.
Part 1, 2, and 3.
So now that you are the president's advisor, you know, so like for you, you are a hammer, so everything is a nail, right? No. So so first, you work with Mills at the IRS at the time, tax.
Who was a tax professional?
Then you became deputy minister, because you became almost like a commissioner. You worked with Mills. Then you became deputy minister when Mills made Kwabena Dufo finance minister. You were tax. Then you became finance minister under Mahama, tax.
No.
Now you are his advisor on economy, tax.
No. at that point, it becomes public financial management.
Okay.
And then you also have some insight into monetary issues from your economic side.
I hear.
So it's more diversified.
I see. Because it looks to me as if from now when Atufosin calls you and says, hey, president's advisor, the budget is coming, the tax part, what should I do? You say, just add more tax.
No, but remember he was my deputy.
I know.
And yes. So
let's just backtrack a bit, and I'll come to VAT and all that.
Yeah.
So you are the president's advisor on the economy.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that and the Minister of Finance?
It's in the word advisor.
Okay.
Yes. You know, you have under our constitution a very serious executive role to play. You know, in terms of the way I like to describe it is in management, which is another thing I did. You know, you have line managers, but you have functional managers.
Okay.
So line managers may be like your good self. You know, you are in charge of production, you are in charge of your show. But then you have what you call the functional managers, who are more like the accounts officers, administration, who cut across. You know, in terms of salary, in terms of expenses. So that's the way I see my role in management terms.
So are you a line manager or a functional manager?
No, the line managers are the ministers.
So okay.
Because they are the executive.
So you, Valerie Sawyer, Nana Oyelitha, are the functional managers.
We are more functional, but then
president's advisor on specific areas.
But in strict management terms, we are staff officials of the president.
Of the president.
Exactly.
But
so
I suspect that if the president is going to meet the finance ministry team or the minister, he would talk to you because you probably be in that meeting.
Well, you attend some
yes, because you are his ears and eyes.
Economics and finance.
Exactly, because he has to do so many things.
Yeah.
You are the guy say, Mr. President, don't forget that we need to highlight this. So remind minister to do this. Or sometimes he will ask you to remind minister to do this because you are like the interface between him and the minister on that issue.
Precisely. But then you have to know your bounds. You have to know that there is the person who is in charge of, my management, public administration is management. So that helps me, to feel comfortable in my shoes.
So if, for example, the president wants a report on an urgent matter, which has to do with fiscal issues, it's very likely that report will be CC'd to you whilst it's sent to him, because he will need your advice on how to interpret that report.
Precisely, it's advisory. You must always remember that your work is advisory, and especially if you have been Minister for Finance, you must be careful that you are not, pretending to be one. You are an advisor, and that is it.
You don't want to overstep your bounds to do what the minister should do.
In fact, the Constitution doesn't even allow you to do that, right? But for a technical person like me,
I'm asking this because I noticed that the people who are his advisors, I may be wrong, they seem senior. Let me give you an example. Guzitano, Valerie Sawyer, Seth Terkper. These are people who you can say have done a lot of what the ministers may have done in the past before. So in terms of the professional field, you are higher, you are more experienced than they are.
Yes,
generally.
To an extent.
Okay.
Yes. But when it comes to somebody like Atu, as I always say, you also have to bear in mind that, whilst we were in opposition, he had become, ranking member of the Finance Committee, and he became leader of the House. So he has gained significant
his legitimate experience.
Yeah,
I get it.
So you don't look at it in a very narrow, sense.
How does the president feel about where the economy is so far? We are in June, so we've done half year. We've done our first budget in March. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being exceptional, 0 being abysmal, where would you? How satisfied is the president about the way the economy is functioning?
How do I measure my success? In order that you are not complacent about the medium term and the long term, which could be your successor in this case, or it could be something, a legacy.
So short term is 0 to 12 months. Medium term is 12 months to.
In my
no, I'll work with you.
Yes.
So 0 to 12 months is short term.
Ideally, yes.
Between end of first year and what year will give you?
I would say, second year, 2.5 to 3 years.
2.5 to 3 years is your medium term.
Yes.
And then long term is the 2028 election
and beyond. And that is why even in the budget, in preparation of the budget, if you want to look at it in budgetary terms, there's the annual budget, which is the ensuing year.
All right.
So, the budget you represent this year will be for 2026.
Yeah.
But then you have the medium term. If you go to the tables, you see estimates for what we call the medium term, right? And it will be 2027, 2028, and 2029.
Fair enough. So for short term, 0 to 1 year, we are in the 6th month. How satisfied is the president about the way the economy is moving?
As a halfway mark within even the first year, I would say satisfactorily.
Satisfactorily?
Yes, because there are measures that you have to use to say, I'm cautiously, because very short term, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously happy. One, let me suggest 2 or 3. 2. We came in as a new government, of course with some experience, to complete the 4th review of the IMF program. It will be going to the board this July. It was to be end of June. All indications, including the staff, that's your measure, the staff who came to the country, are saying that we think that things have gone well and the various structural measures and benchmarks and things have been met, which means that you can be cautiously optimistic that the IMF board would pass your program and you would get some injection into the economy, which is the essence of an austerity, of an austerity program. Second, We knew that we had a lot of liabilities, to be paid, and we knew one or two of them, like the ones that was paid for pensions, so you were racking your head. It's a country which, which had defaulted, and you default because you don't have money to pay debt, and let alone other, compensation and the rest. Okay, you come in and you go back into your arsenal from the past, right? And the past being that you did something called treasury signal account, which means, where is the cash? How can I manage that cash effectively? Okay, which was under the budget division of the Ministry of Finance, under the minister now, who was the deputy and in charge. So what he comes and he does is to take control of the cash, which is sitting in various banks and other places, some of which could be used to buy your own bonds, right? So you see that, the short-term cash that you need to hit the road, you have gone into your past, right, and did a treasury signal account. You have gone into the past and did the quick fixes that are needed for gift means and the rest. Remember, these were our reforms. So you have a bit of a smooth ride in the sense that you are able to meet those very short-term commitments, arrears. You are able to pay salaries. You are able to do without, continue the hiccup, which the economy was. So that's the two examples.
Going pretty well.
Yes, and then a third example would be, what's this Galamsey? It's not new. I've experienced it before. What are the features of the Galamsey as we analyze them in our manifesto? And we had things we wanted to do. So as we go through them, remember that many of the things are in the manifesto already. And they were in the dialogue. I mean, we're there when they were being discussed and everything. Right? So you set up a goal board. You get reps who have to do the marketing, right? And then you say we are going to add value. Remember, medium term.
Yeah.
It's the same policy, but you can't do that in the short term. So the first thing is to set up the gold board as quickly as possible. And then the haphazard marketing of the gold, you begin to control it. You can't stop it immediately. You start entering the forest reserves and the rest. As the president, to quote the president at this stage, the last time he spoke about it, he said, before he said we had taken control of 7, remaining 1, the most notorious.
Yeah.
Then within a short number of days, he comes out and he says that we have, and then you see, what is this translation? How do you get satisfied? The reserves begin to be better because then you are satisfied that, oh yes, the order I have brought into how to control the gold, like cocoa, more than the rest is, is yielding. But then that's where you have a caution, because having a gold board per se may not necessarily, because you have a cocoa board which was doing well, but was on its knees. So these are examples I would give.
So
for the
first example for satisfactory performance is the fourth review of IMF program. Pretty well. You hope the board will say we've done well.
Yeah.
Your cash flow management, liability management is going pretty well.
Yeah.
And then your mopping up of gold exports using the gold board is great.
Yes. Where the first two are routine.
And the
third one is unique. Use an IMF program
to do it.
Structural.
No problem.
Yes.
I'm staying on the third point.
Yeah.
So can we link the third point to the appreciation of the currency?
Absolutely, it's one of them.
It's one of the reasons why the currency is appreciating.
Yes, the currency. And then in fact, all three are part of currency. We are controlling expenditure better. And then also there is a natural part of it. The rains have been good. And that means that in terms of currency management or in terms of inflation, food comes up. And once you have a good harvest, you can know your food index will go down, because you don't have to import so much, right, and use more forex, the forex we are preserving and building.
So it looks like everything is going right for us, some of which are not our doing, because we don't control the range.
Cautiously.
We don't control the world gold price, because the point around the currency appreciation, you need to admit that beyond mopping up the export of gold, the appreciation of the commodities price has also made it possible to have more money for your reserves.
Yeah, but that's where you don't control, and that's
what I'm saying. So I'm trying to say to you that some of the factors behind your success are not within your control.
Absolutely, and includes the Israeli-Iran war.
Which is why you use the word satisfactory and not elated.
No complacent.
You are, so it's satisfactory. So things
but don't be complacent.
So if, for example, the gold prices plummet or oil prices go through the roof, we are screwed.
You'll be screwed for the end of the short term to the medium term. But see, that is where you ask yourself, we have been there before. HIPIC, we've been there, we've defaulted. What is it that we did to avoid some of those things? And that's when your structural policies from the past become important.
I see.
So whilst times are good, if you remember the minister said, we are rebuilding the buffers. So you build buffers only when times are good. So we are rebuilding the stabilization fund, we are rebuilding the sinking fund, you know.
Are those, again, I want to make this easy, simple. Are those things, sinking fund and stabilization fund, are they structural issues?
They are structural and they are your medium term. Because they are the medium term measures you need to stabilize the short term gains that you have made. And
so
you have to
if those are done, then you can be sure that in the medium terms, things will still be stable, if they are done well.
That's your goal.
So when you say sinking fund, are you saying that
debt repayment?
Just take your time. Yes. You know, a lot of people don't get these things.
Yes.
We have always had a sinking fund.
No.
Or they stopped. Did MPP stop it?
They stopped it.
What did they replace it with?
They drew down.
They took the money out of it.
Yes.
So
that's why 3 oil fields.
That's why what?
3 oil fields. We started sinking from 1 oil field.
So is the new government is rebuilding the money in the sinking fund?
Yes, because if you borrow, whether household, business, or government, you must learn to pay.
So what does the sinking fund do?
The best expression of a sinking fund is a debt repayment account.
Where you put money so that when you owe, you use that money to pay.
So let me, sometimes you are forced to do it. Let's try and come to employees, right? Your child is going to school. You're on a low salary. You want to buy a car. You don't have a salary where you can pay immediately. You want to buy furniture. So let's end it there. You go and borrow, you take salary advance, right? And you promise that you pay. The compulsory aspect is that because your account goes there, the bank is able to deduct a source. On the other hand, it can be voluntary, right? So if it's voluntary, then you have to have the discipline to know
put that percentage of your salary in there
precisely
to make those payments. So that is what the sinking fund is.
That's what a sinking fund is. And it's in the constitution.
What is a stabilization fund?
The stabilization fund is, we alluded to it. The stabilization fund is saying gold prices are good. There's been a debate I've been listening between Theo Acheampong and another professor and the rest. One is on the view that the gold prices could stabilize into gold. The other one thinks that because it's related to the dollar, and the dollar gains or loses its strength because of global developments. When the dollar strengthens, it's likely that for CD will decline. So the stabilization fund says that beware that the factors that are good today
will not last forever.
Will not last, and they could be reversed.
So put money in an account so that when there's a reversal, that money can give you a buffer.
Crude oil prices.
That's in the constitution as well.
It's in the constitution.
Did MPP put money in the stabilization fund?
It was a requirement in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act.
Did they do it?
No, they depleted most of it.
When you say they depleted, they took the money out of it?
Yes.
This is during COVID or before or after COVID?
Yes, using COVID.
So during COVID, they decided that
legitimately they
needed the money.
Yes,
so from both sinking and stabilization, they took. Post-COVID, did they replace it?
Yeah, that's the point.
They did not.
Yes, because if the debt repayment accounts were being replaced and used, we would not have defaulted.
So since this government took over, how much have we accrued in both funds?
Oh, I can't give you the precise figures, but the minister has said.
Do we put money in it every month?
Yeah, we do. It's in the law.
So as far as you know, we are complying with that law?
We are complying. And the medium-term optimism comes, despite your not wanting to be complacent, by continuing and knowing, as the president has been very keen to do, that I want to bring E&I back. I want to bring Shell back. I want to bring all the oil companies which for the last 8 years, had investment where we never brought.
So
even
he's bringing the oil fields back. All right. Stay on the issue of funds. Last point. The previous government capped statutory funds. So Get Fund was capped. I think the Health Fund, the Road
Health Fund and various DSC.
That meant that they did not put the full amount into those accounts.
For those purposes.
Yes. This government doesn't think that was a good idea.
No.
So you have uncapped those funds.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because if there wasn't a need for it, it wouldn't have been set up to begin with.
So
if there wasn't a need, that's why we call them, remember. That's why there are allocations for specific purposes. Right? So you are saying we're a country that is passionate about education.
Yeah.
Although there's another explanation in the VAT which we'll come to, I know.
Yeah.
When we come there. So we are passionate about education. So we increased the VAT rate by 2.5% after it was introduced at 10. Right, under Rawlings. And then we said, let's dedicate this 2.5%
to education.
To education. Because remember, the reason for Kumiprego is the fear that you will get money and you will misapply that you would. So we are saying, let's put it to a particular purpose which we can measure. That's why they are earmarked. We use the expression earmarked for a specific purpose. Then, Seth Terkper came in. He needed to increase it from 2.5%, the VAT, right? You know, it's a percentage of the VAT, to 15%. So he says, okay, the VAT debate was still raging. You oppose the VAT and everything. So when I increase it to 15%, I'll dedicate it to health. Because when you talk about social expenditure, these are the two.
Education and health.
Education and health. And they are one of the largest in the budget. So you want to do it well. So you want to assure Ghanaians that I don't want the 15% to go in and then I have the discretion of allocating it to education, to health. It might go to something which we are not. Ghanaians in their wisdom accepted it. Then it was increased to 17.5%. And we say, look, we have to build an infrastructure, a means of borrowing to build infrastructure because that's what will transform the economy. So when it went to 17.5%, the money was allocated to the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. Okay? But the difference is that they were collected as a VAT. And one of the features of the VAT, right, is that when City, or what's your corporate name, when they pay VAT on all these nice things we see here, you are not the consumer. VAT is a consumer tax. If we didn't allow you, you are the agent for collection. So somebody who is also an agent for collection added it and you paid for it. Then you are not the final consumer. You are going to, let's say your product is advertisements. As we are doing now, you do a break and then you do adverts. Somebody is paying for it. You charge that person VAT. But your cost, you see, you
also
have
has a VAT have paid.
The VAT you have paid, but you are not the consumer. So you are given the right as a registered tax collector, right, to deduct the VAT that you paid
from my
the
input
VAT that you charged.
Then the
on
net.
Your input. Then
Wonderful.
the net is what you pay.
Wonderful.
Cumulatively, it becomes, Now, so therefore, when you take out the Get Fund, you take out the NHIL, apart from the capping, right, which were part of VAT, GIF was not affected, right? When you take them out and you call them straight levies, levies don't have that right. So immediately they become levy, it means that 5% of the 17.5 on which you were getting a credit now becomes a levy and you have to add it to your cost because you can't claim it.
So the company is suffering.
It increases the cost.
Because he's paying VAT for what he buys but cannot charge the commensurate or net it off.
Yes. The remainder is VAT, so you are getting it. But instead of getting your credit for 17.5,
you get for 12.
Exactly, 12.5.
So that's the problem the previous government created
one of the problem,
by the way they structured their VAT.
Exactly, because there's something called cascading in taxation. Because you cannot claim, you add it to your cost.
So my costs go up as a company.
Exactly. But then remember, the company which is doing the advertisement is not the consumer. So they also add a higher, because you are charging on a higher.
So everybody's paying more. So business costs become higher.
So it's cascading.
The only person who benefits is the government collecting the money.
So it's,
because they are collecting both the levy and they are charging upfront.
That is where I hope it's so complicated.
No, I think it's clear.
It's clear.
So you have explained why the previous government's VAT got to 21%, and people were so against it.
Yeah, but you are thinking, even for the government, you are thinking that I'm going to get more money. But remember that businesses, when the costs become burdensome,
they'll find ways of
evasion avoidance.
Wonderful. So has this government, why has this government not changed that? Because when Atufosin read the budget, he did not change the VAT calculation.
It's going to be changed. In fact, as we speak, remember he made a promise that the VAT as a major tax, and we have 4 major taxes, but I don't want to confuse.
Yeah,
we'll come to it.
So he will change
as a major tax, yes. And he said that we are going to, as the IMF and other, institutions that have worked in other countries, to bring us back. And so the fund has actually come as we speak.
So they are going to calculate how to change it. You can't do it yourself.
They are going to advise us on we know.
So do it. Why do you need IMF to help you do it?
Under the homegrown, yes. But remember, we're in a fund program, so we need to let them know.
Because since we know everything wrong with the previous government's work, you don't need IMF to tell us how to change it.
No, we don't. Really.
Just reverse the levy.
Yeah, we have a program.
Because the COVID levy is still there.
I'm saying that.
But the fact that you have a program, that means IMF should have to tell you how to recalculate your VAT.
No, not necessarily. What I'm saying is that we have a program.
Yeah.
And one of the indices in the program is that you have a revenue projection line which the fund is monitoring. So you must convince them that when you remove that revenue, right, you are going to strengthen its administration in order that it doesn't result in further loss in revenue.
I hear you.
Yes.
We'll take a break. This is the point of view. My guest is Seth Terkper. Earlier today, he launched this book, VAT. Very big book. I wanted to start reading it. When I started, Charlie, it's a powerful book, wild book. We'll talk about this book. I'm interested in what happened in Kwame Preku and some of the issues that surrounded the tax, because he's captured them in this book. We'll also talk about how he sees the next 3.5 years of this government. Stay with us.
Imagine walking into a secure environment you call your own, a home where you are in charge of your own security. But while you dream of a brighter future, shadows could be lurking at your doorsteps and windows. With real-time alerts and a professional response team ready to act, your home is protected around the clock, whether you're away or asleep. Don't wait for safety. Create it. Installed by professionals, our systems integrate seamlessly into your home, guarding every nook and cranny. And with our rent-to-own plan, this unmatched security comes with no burdensome upfront cost. Enjoy your safety, payment at your own pace, and peace of mind. Plus, our theft guarantee protection ensures you're covered in case of any loss, giving you even more peace of mind. Secure your home with Home Shield. Make peaceful sleep a habit, knowing we stand guard. Response 1, protecting your world 24/7.
Excellent. Be that business owner that stands out and is very productive.
You're so confident. How do you do it?
It starts with Built. Where does your confidence come from? Paperwork made simple. Built takes all the hassle away. Yep, don't be like her. Built is your all-in-one simplified finance platform. It's your home for invoices, payments, your payroll, and so much more.
Oh, wow.
Grow your business today. Sign up now at Built.Africa. Download the Built app now.
Introducing Betway's Bet Influencer, a groundbreaking feature where you can make money by just sharing codes. He just needs to share his codes and make money. The more his codes are used, the more money he makes. Oh yes, so what are you waiting for? Anyone can be a bet influencer. Share your codes and make money. Bet Influencer, another world first from Betway.
This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Betway, get way more.
Remember who we are seeing now. At risk of prostate enlargement. We a member or her. 20 ebitimi prostate cancer. 5 bitimi afamu. 5 bitimi afamu. Nadia ubefamu.
This is not my fault.
Why?
And to what da? Entina midi mani Executive Prostate Center.
Executive Prostate Center.
Remember who we are singing now.
Into the Koswafa May.
Executive Prostate Center. My cured.
My name is Anis Hafor. I'm currently serving as the chairman of the Barstow Ghana. What I've noticed with Barstow Ghana is that we are introducing the American curriculum for the first time into the country. And the interest that I have in it is that we want to do something that's a little different.
At the Barstow schools, we believe that true education extends beyond traditional learning. It is about preparing our students to thrive in a globally interconnected world. Our Ghana campus embodies this philosophy by offering a rigorous curriculum aligned with our Kansas City home campus.
Our mission is to promote sound scholarship and to give symmetrical development to mind, body, and character.
Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight, my guest is Seth Terkper. He earlier on launched a book on value-added tax in Africa, the Ghana Experience. Now, I need to say that this is his second book on VAT. So, his first book is more a textbook, which is Thomson Reuters' book, a VAT handbook. So, what's the difference between this book and this book? In very simple terms, so not in equations.
No, in technical terms. The difference is that, as you rightly pointed out, this is a textbook, general.
Okay. All right.
You know, you may see one or two references to Africa, other countries, you know, but this is general, but it uses examples in our 30 or so years of implementation of VAT to show what is right and what is wrong about the way we have managed the VAT.
So this has more history. This also has some law.
Yes.
And it's richer.
In fact, because we intend students, I do teach, because we intend students to use it. What we have done is when we are talking about a change, you know, because it's a law, we go to the law that changed what we are talking about. And so that we reproduce that part of the law, you know, to guide the students, because it's not everybody who would have access to the law or what it is. So we reproduce the practical experience. And then what we were discussing, when we say that it results in evasion and avoidance, the first part of the book has some numbers to show that, you know, despite all the 20 plus levies that we introduced, the VAT, the revenue did not, you know, perform as much as we had hoped.
The Kumipreko demonstration in '95 was largely because of VAT. At that time, what work were you doing?
At that time, I was the National VAT Coordinator.
So you are the cause of the demonstration?
With hindsight, I think the nation came to realize the importance of VAT.
A lot of the agitation was done in the universities as well. I think at the same time, universities were also fighting cost sharing. Is that why at some point the 2.5% was added for Get Fund? Do you see any link between that, or that was an afterthought Kufuor brought?
No, actually, it started with Rollins. So just a quick one. When a VAT was introduced, the other factor you didn't mention was that it was introduced roundabout. First introduction before it was cancelled was around about 1995, and we're going into the 1996 elections. So it was a political issue.
So you shelved it because of the election?
Yeah, it was introduced but withdrawn. Right, so it was shelved, yes. And then
Rollins won the 96 election against Kufuor.
Yes, so so that was Rollins took over in 1996.
Yes, his second.
And then the VAT was reintroduced.
Reintroduced when he won.
Right. And then that's when it was reintroduced at 10%, but 10% is not fiscally sustainable.
Too low.
Because even the sales tax that the VAT was replacing, VAT is a replacement tax. We were collecting sales taxes, we were collecting service taxes, we were collecting super sales tax and all of that. And it was becoming too complex. The tax regime was...
You wanted one tax that will...
Exactly. So that's the irony of what we have done today. Introducing 20, consumption taxes is just too complicated.
So VAT was to simplify the process.
It was to simplify
but 10
the
was
process.
too low.
But 10 was too low. So to have a smooth introduction, more or less, there was the NDC's promise, the new NDC government, that when we increase it to 12.5, we would dedicate the 2.5% to
education.
That's
Which hence the GET Fund.
That's our GET Fund. But then with a promise that to businesses that it will still be collected as though it were VAT, even though it's described as a levy, especially the NHIL. Would you still get your credit? You will still get your refund in the case of exporters and the rest, right? So that came in. Then fast forward 2000, Cecily Kufuor won, 12.5%.
So sorry, when you were VAT coordinator in 95, who was your boss in the Revenue Authority?
It was Mr. Tuahoe.
Mr. Tuahoe.
As minister.
He was minister of what?
He was minister for revenue.
For revenue.
In charge before he became minister for energy. And at the point he carried 3 portfolios. He was also the secretary responsible for the Structural Adjustment Program secretary.
So he had 3 portfolios at Tuahoe.
Yes.
What work was President Mills doing at the time?
President Mills came in as the chairman of the board of IRS, because that was the era when IRS was taken, from the civil service. Customs was taken for the civil service, and they were made services. They were departments under the Ministry of Finance, like control and
they became services.
So they became services.
So Mills was the chairman of the board of IRS.
Yes, but then he became the commissioner.
In 1995.
He became the second or third commissioner, earlier. Earlier.
Prior to your assumption of...
Yes, by 1995 he was already commissioner.
He was already commissioner?
Yes.
But Tuahoe was the minister?
Was a minister. But then Mr. Hoy was given the energy portfolio and others, and so the National Revenue Secretariat went back under Ministry of Finance. Policy was still with Ministry of Finance, even the VAT policy.
So you were reporting to Tuahoe in doing this VAT work?
Yes, the Secretariat was small.
You were monitoring the demonstration against VAT?
No.
You didn't have time?
We were actually implementing as a national coordinator.
You were not interested in the demonstration?
To tell the truth, the demonstration for us as technical people was a bit of a surprise, because we had introduced the VAT before it was withdrawn going to the elections.
I see.
So I remember I was on an education tour of VAT with businesses in Kumasi. And on my way back, very early in the morning, we were flagged down. The policeman saw me and he said, you are Mr. Terkper? I said, yes. Please listen to the news. And that was when I knew that the VAT was, cancelled.
Oh, wow.
On the road, yes.
You were technically doing your...
I was doing, yes, because it had been introduced. So, but after then Professor Mills became the running mate. And
from late 95.
Exactly. So, and yes. And then so when President Rawlings won, he replaced Aka. So when President Rawlings won, as a tax person, obviously he took up the challenge to reintroduce the VAT.
So he oversaw the implementation from 97?
He oversaw the implementation of the VAT, through 97 to 98, when it was reintroduced.
I see. Did Kwesi Botwe resign in the early 90s because of VAT?
It's one factor. But there was also adjustment fatigue. We had been doing
SAP from 1982.
For a very long time.
Yeah, the Minister of Finance for almost 11 years.
Exactly. So in fact, the Kumipreku demonstration was, although VAT was just the last straw, but there was agitation.
So it means that Kwesi Botwe did not necessarily agree with VAT, or you don't know? You don't know if he resigned because of, one of the reasons was the VAT?
I could be. We never really had that conversation. You
never spoke to him about that?
No, I didn't speak to him. Mind you, he was the minister. I was just yes. And so the Honorable Pepra became minister. So he oversaw the...
So when Mills became president in 2009, he knew your work from the VAT in the mid to late 90s?
No, in fact, in NRS, because remember,
NRS?
I was National Revenue Secretariat.
He knew your work?
Yes, and the National Revenue Secretariat became the Revenue Agency's governing board,
RAGB.
Which became, when Mills came, via...
Do you mention these things in this book?
Yes, the last 2 chapters. The political history.
So your appointment as Deputy Minister of Finance under the Kwabena Dufo, you were in charge of the revenue portfolio.
I had left for the IMF. I left after the VAT was.
Yeah, you are going to work in IMF, I know.
Yes.
But when he won in 2009,
yes,
he brought you back as deputy minister.
Yes.
And I'm saying that you were working in the VAT, you were working as the guy.
I was working in the Fiscal Affairs Department on tax issues.
Correct.
But because of my accounting, I also took interest in public financial management issues. And I was accompanying country missions, so I could see a total picture of the economy from one country to the other. Some of the initiatives which, I discussed with President Mahama, which he introduced, were the result of what I saw in a country becoming an emerging economy from a low income, becoming a brick economy, or acceding, in the case of the Eastern European countries, acceding to the EU, as a member of the EU, the former Soviet countries.
I see.
Yes.
So
it was Professor Mills who, during the campaign as I came home.
And then when Mahama became president for his first term, he then appointed you his Minister for Finance in 2013.
There's an interesting element which I point out to this. In actual fact, two people. The Minister for Communications, Bill Gabra, became the board chairman when the VAT was reintroduced.
Is it?
Yes. And then President Mahama, as deputy minister, was actually the person who chaired the public education, because one of the accusations against the VAT
was that there was no proper communication.
Exactly, but who best to do it is the Fosukwachi of today.
So John Mahama, then now President Mahama, His Excellency,
yes,
was the one leading the public communication.
Yes, deputy minister for information
in 97.
And he worked with the project in the VAT project.
Is that how you got to know him personally?
Well, I had known him as a member of parliament when I used to accompany Victor Selomé.
I'm trying to think about his choice of you as Minister of Finance when he became the President of Ghana. Clearly, that work on the VAT team brought you together, or did not?
It did. And as I came back, I would often, from the fund, on what we call home, I would visit those, who I had become acquaintance with. I went to Parliament because where the laws went. And my first flavor of Parliament on the technical side was accompanying either Mr. Victor Selomé, late or now late Misata, deputy ministers, Asaga, to Parliament to defend.
So you were part of their technical teams all the time, Selomé?
Because I was a national coordinator.
Did you ever work with Mr. Kwame Pepra?
Yes, with the reintroduction. The VAT was reintroduced successfully under
Kwame
Pepra.
So all the ministers of finance under the NDC regime, you have worked with them?
I've worked with them.
And you are their tax guy. So you can blame me for all the tax problems that they've caused us.
You can blame me for if you like, one of the things they had done, which we probably do not appreciate very much, is if I excuse my use of the word, I don't mean to demean anything, is the fact that there was an oscillation. The country, the best example, the country went from negative growth to positive growth, negative, positive, and so there's a map, I think one day I can show it to you, which if you do the zero line like this, it was going up and down. From 1983, when the ERP SAP was launched, Ghana never had negative growth. 40-year run. The only time we came close was under COVID, when it did 0.4.
So you credit the fiscal policies for that stabilization.
Yes.
So you are proud.
In fact, the economic policy for that stabilization. And bold measures like the VAT and the rest will stabilize the revenue, removing the IRS and VAT.
Okay.
Yes.
Last point on VAT. You've said that the team and IMF have come up with a new calculation to correct the anomaly of the cascading effect of the previous thing.
They had given their feedback, but government hasn't come. I believe that government will come out, on what to do with the
I saw on GRA's official Facebook page that starting July 1 this year, a 15% VAT will be applied to non-life insurance premiums in Ghana. I was quite surprised because I thought
it was repealed. It was there already.
So it was they're just bringing it back.
Yeah, there's no part of recommendation. It was in the 2013. Those are some of the things that went wrong with
15% VAT.
Because let me give you.
No, I'm just explaining. So they are applying a VAT to non-life insurance premiums.
Yeah, which is a VAT rate. In other words, ultimately we may be looking at a VAT rate of 15%.
That's
over
where
a
you
period,
see it.
over a period of time. Yes.
Because now it's effectively 21.
Yes, including the street levies, which I was explaining.
So based on what you know, the VAT will come down to 15.
No, because I have to be cautious because we have a process.
Okay. So
You know, and
you
so
just
you
tell
know
me,
what
forget
is-
about the problem. Just tell me. I just want to know alone. So, but because it can't
No, to go to cabinet,
but
and
it can't,
ultimately parliament.
it can't go above 21 because the problem is that the 21 is very high.
Well, in fact,
and then the fact that a levy component makes it even worse.
In fact, there is a UK study, you know, I forget it, which has already told us that this VAT rate is high. And when you compare, we are now have one of the highest.
So,
You know,
okay, so let me forget what you're saying. Will 15 be reasonable?
Yes,
15 will be reasonable.
Yes, 15, 17.
12 is too low.
12 is too low.
But certainly 20 is too high.
Yes.
21
if
is
you
too
broaden the base, you have to broaden the base, and you have to do some of the measures that you were just talking about.
Where can we get copies of this book?
It's going to be in all the university bookshops.
All the university
It's
bookshops.
going to be in BPP, I know for sure.
EPP?
Yeah, EPP. And then there are other places who are already, you know, have been approached and are willing to put it on the shelf. So most bookshops will have it.
Last question. How worried are you about what's happening in the Middle East? Could that drive our economy out of gear in 1 minute?
Yes, it could. It has, for example, reversed, you know, the price of crude, which you know what it means. It's very. But the more important point for me is to repeat what I said: prepare for crises such as what's happening in the Middle East.
Prepare for crisis.
Yes.
Thinking fund.
The time to prepare.
Stabilization fund.
Yes, my best expression for that is that you don't prepare for crisis during
The
crisis.
You anticipate the crisis.
You anticipate the crisis and you prepare for crisis when the times are good.
Thank you for talking to us. I wish you well. Seth Terkper is President Mohammed's advisor on the economy and the former Minister of Finance and also an author of VAT in Africa. Please get a copy and get more insight. Thanks for watching tonight's edition of The Point of View. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.